When discussing a Goa trip, we usually refer to its leisurely lifestyle, marine holidays, adventurous long drives, or rejuvenating nightlife. But in this episode, we will show you a different side of Goa, something from the past, a reflection of the dark ages. Continue with our journey till the end of the video as we trail through the relics of ancient times, uncovering a sinister truth. Who exactly was Saint Xavier? What did he do before establishing convent schools all over India? Why were his hands smeared with the blood and ashes of countless sufferers? This is the story of colonial rule in Goa, a small portion of the Portuguese Empire. In this episode, we roam the streets of their first Goan stronghold, facing the Mandovi River in the north. It was here where they had emerged victorious against the Adil Shahi forces of Bijapur Sultanate in their second attempt with the help of local Hindus. During their reign, the colonials erected multiple monuments of their faith. Churches, cathedrals, basilica, convents, etc. These are all now protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1986. History reeks of its streets and walls. The churches and convents of Velia, Goa. The Portuguese ruled over their land from this nerve center. The monuments are scattered over approximately 28 acres with a buffer of around 500. The prominent ones among them are the Church of Our Lady of the Rosary, the Royal Chapel of St. Anthony, the Church of St. Augustine, and the Basilica of Bon Jesus at the southwestern end of the city. A central garden separates the basilica from another complex of three structures, two of which dedicated to the worship of Saint Catherine of Alexandria. They are the Chapel of Saint Catherine, the Church of Saint Francis of Assisi, and Sei Cathedral de Santa Catarina. A narrow road leads away to the Diwar ferry terminal, passing through the Arch of the Viceroys, where the colonials once entered the city almost 5 centuries back. Later they shifted towards the Arabian Sea and transferred their capital to Panji or Nova Goa in 1843. Fearing tropical diseases like malaria and typhoid, the old capital became the Old Goa. In Portuguese, Velia means old. We started from the furthest corner of the complex, a remnant ruins of an age-old church with its convents. It was erected during the last part of the 16th century by the Order of St. Augustine of Hippo. In its earlier glory days, the church had 4 high pillars, of which only one now remains in a dilapidated manner. It is nearly 46 meters tall and consists of laterite blocks. The ruins are now secured and excavated. It It has 8 chapels, 4 altars, and 1 convent. In 1835, it was abandoned due to the repressive religious policies of the Portuguese state of India. Further neglect caused it to fall into pieces over the 19th century and onwards. Entry is free, but you should take care of your surroundings. The whole complex is ancient and trying to return to earth as it dies and decays. Therefore, try to stay away from the walls. The mound on which the Church of St. Augustine stands tall is Monte Santo, or the Holy Hill. The hillock rises a little further towards Mandovi and offers a bird's eye view of the riverside. At this very place in 1510, a soldier rushed to inform his chieftain about the victory. To commemorate the moment, the Portuguese leader ordered a chapel to be built over the Holy Hill. It was to be known as the Church of Our Lady of the Rosary, a glowing indictment of the outcome of the Goan conquest. The facade draws inspiration from both the Manueline and Gothic styles of architecture. Its stark white color burns the eyes if you dare to stare long enough. Inside, it has 3 floors arranged like a fortress. Christianity always knew how to protect and fortify its religious identity in an otherwise alien environment. Mandovi has seen it all. It was crucial for Portugal's naval forces. They treaded deep through the estuary from the port of Panji and anchored near Ribandar. From there, with the help of a local leader named Timoji, the Portuguese troops operated a 3-pronged assault over the Adil Shahi stronghold. It was their second attempt, but this time, something felt optimistic. The hope of victory was in the air. Or this could be the beginning of a new despair. On November 25, 1510, the Portuguese troops flooded the palace of Ismail Adil Shah at the orders of their new leader, Afonso de Albuquerque. November 25 is also celebrated as St. Catherine's Day. They believed the colonialists had an edge with their blessings this time. The hope became tangible and real as Mandovi flowed away with bloody carcasses and ruins of their enemies. At the commands of Albuquerque, now already the first Duke of Goa, 2 chapels were to be constructed in the memorandum of the victory. The first is the Chapel of St. Catherine, which faces the river directly to the north. The brown and white structure has a prominent Baroque influence. Although it is non-functional now, the chapel once attained the status of a cathedral. ASI takes better care of the building and its surroundings. A collection of procured and protected artifacts is just behind the chapel's corners. Gravestones, ornamental coats of arms, and various sculptures exhibited on the grounds in an orderly manner. Among them are some instruments from a gunpowder factory in Casa de Polvora. Heavy round millstones lay perfectly still, having been out of business for a long time. However, it was not enough to construct a single church in honor of Saint Catherine. Towards the east of the gunpowder factory, another cathedral is dedicated to her, the Sei Cathedral de Santa Catarina. This white facade is about 76 meters tall and reminds one of the Tuscan architectural order devised by the Romans. It was consecrated in 1640. The cathedral also has a baptismal font installed in 1532, which served St. Francis Xavier to baptize the Goan converts. Almost adjacent to the Sei Cathedral, we find another church with convent schools established by the Franciscan friars who reached Goa in 1517. This is the church and convent of St. Francis of Assisi. As we gazed at the painting depicting a scene of religious judgment, our minds paused for a while. The painted panels, frescoes, and multiple sculptures on altars make you stand still for the moment. The air in the room shifted from a lighter note to an overbearing sense of horror. It is as if the painting and the walls have seen and witnessed a long history of cruel misdeeds. On May 23, 1536, the then ruler of the Portuguese Empire, King John III, managed to acquire permission from Pope Paul III for an inquisition. In English, it means to investigate. However, in Christianity, it stood for something else entirely. It was a sin to partake in any other faith, to keep, record, and preach the words of any other religion, or worse, to transcribe the doctrines, even the Christian ones, in any other language than Latin. The judgment was forced conversion. Being a good Christian was the only way of salvation. Religious preachers or saints were spreading out all over the colonial empire to bring the message of this vicious god to the natives. In 1541, a Navarrese missionary from the town of Xavier set sail over the Atlantic with that same goal in mind. He had his companion Ignatius with him on the voyage. They had circled around the southern end of Africa and landed in Mozambique, staying and preaching for quite some time. Later, they continued on the Vasco da Gama route to reach the Konkan coast in 1542. He requested King John III to enforce the Portuguese Inquisition in Goa. In a letter to the pious king, he mentions, "The second necessity which obtains in India if those who live there are to be good Christians is that your highness should institute the Holy Inquisition. For there are many who live according to the law of Moses or the law of Muhammad, without any fear of God or shame before men." It was suggested to the masses that the Sanskrit and Arabic texts are equivalent to the words of Satan. To practice and recite them is an act of shame. The only way to purge yourself is to shelter in God's abode. If you show even a hint of betrayal of the Christian faith or dare to practice any other religious ritual in private, you are to be branded as a crypto. These sinners were tortured and burnt till death to exhibit the judgment of the Christian faith. Their carcasses were paraded through the city streets to pass a message to the non-believers. Either put your trust only in the colonial Christian God or face His Almighty's satanic punishment. St. Francis Xavier continued to preach and establish convent schools throughout India and Asia. His mission had a positive effect too, in the form of St. Xavier's institutions. Along with his friend Ignatius of Loyola, his remains are preserved inside the Baroque-styled facade called the Basilica of Bon Jesus. They had founded the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits, at this very spot. Pope Pius XII decreed the status of a basilica to this sanctuary in 1946 to commemorate the Jesuits' contribution in preaching God's words to the Asians. Bom Jesus in Portuguese means infant or innocent Jesus. The overbearing history here makes it one of the 7 wonders of Portuguese origin. If you have enjoyed the story so far, do consider subscribing for more content like this. Also, don't forget to check out the other videos of the Konkan coast of Goa. Link is in the pinned comment.